Hello and welcome to the Palsy Podcast with me, Ciaran Fitzgerald. I'm a playwright, screenwriter, and podcaster from South Wales. And seeing as March is Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, to mark it, I've decided to interview interesting people who have cerebral palsy from Wales and beyond every day in March. If you like this episode, please stay tuned for more throughout the month and like and share. Now enjoy this episode of the Palsy Podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 30 of the Palsy Podcast with me, Ciaran Fitzgerald. If you don't know by now, where have you been for the last month? But March is Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, and this month I'm interviewing some really cool people who have CP, and this is actually the last interview I'm doing. You might think, oh, Key, there's 31 days in March. What are you gonna do for tomorrow's episode? Well, you'll have to tune in tomorrow and find out because Jade Owen is the last person I'm interviewing, but she will not be the last episode of this podcast. So tune in tomorrow to find out what the last episode is and what my future plans are with this. But for today, I'm delighted to welcome Jade Owen to the Palsy Podcast. Hi Jade, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Really good. Thank you for doing this and thank you for giving up your Sunday morning to do
Thank
this.
you, and thank you so much for having me.
It's just that I kind of want to open up with what I've started with everyone.
hmm
Like, what was it like growing up with CP in childhood, and was there a moment where you first realized that you were different?
So for me personally, because I know everyone has their own experiences, but for me, growing up with cerebral palsy, I did feel very different very early on. Obviously, I think it's because I had a lot of friends who were quite sporty and enjoyed skipping and running.
Yeah.
And that was my kind of like social connections growing up. I had friends who loved that kind of stuff. And I remember going home to my mum once and being like, Mum, why am I so different? Why can't I do that? Like, why do I struggle with these things?
Mm.
And my mum just went, Well, we're all a little bit different. We all can't do everything.
Well, which is true, right?
hmm
But did you wish, like, did you want to, did you ever have an explanation of why? And when you did that make things a little bit easier?
Well, obviously, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 2, but they didn't
Mm.
really know what type I had until it was actually on my 6th birthday that I got my full diagnosis of CP.
Right.
So, yeah,
That's quite late,
it
isn't
was quite
it?
late. They'd said when I was born that they suspect I have cerebral palsy because of my mum had eclampsia and I
Right.
came 2 months early. So they suspected from that birth because I was in a coma, my mum was in a coma and I was in intensive care that they suspected I may have cerebral palsy growing up, but they weren't entirely sure. They couldn't predict. But one of the GPs said that I had a bleed on the brain, which indicates cerebral palsy. So
Yeah.
they were just like, the expectations were a bit like, we're not sure. So obviously I had my diagnosis on my 6th birthday, like my full diagnosis. And I was just like, oh, this makes sense to why I can't do
Mm.
stuff.
And obviously, like early intervention and stuff like that is really important for CP. And
Yes.
because you didn't have that diagnosis, did
hmm
that affect your access to stuff like physio and
Yeah.
occupational therapy, speech and language therapy?
Well, I had speech and language therapy because I wasn't really talking much as a child anyway. But then they got me a diagnosis for autism, which was like, yay, I got that one first. That was like, that's really
Right.
different. Like, like okay.
But
So,
like that is strange to me because so
mhm.
many people say it's so difficult to get an autism diagnosis,
Yes, I
whereas
know.
comparatively CP,
I
it's a
know.
it's a brain injury,
Brain
you can't
effect.
really argue with that. So it's
Literally.
strange to me how the autism diagnosis
hmm
came about before the CP diagnosis.
Yeah, I know, crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Like, I obviously saw a lot of specialists growing up. I had occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, and then physical therapy. But they first diagnosed me properly was interpattern toe walker, and they believed that because I had the autism diagnosis, that I had a habit of going on my tiptoes because I did
Yeah,
walk as a child, but it was I always fell over. So I think my mum took me to the hospital. The doctors once said, "Look, we need answers for Jade because she's not meeting the milestones. She's falling over constantly. Like, there's
yeah.
something wrong." And because my nan had MS, my mum thought because that can be hereditary, she thought maybe I had like that.
Mm,
So obviously, yeah, so that was a long wait, and it was a very long wait and waiting list. But the physios there even knew there was something neurological going on with me. But the hospital was such
yeah.
a long backlogged waiting list, and they actually lost my file. So like 2 years down the line, I was waiting for
Oh
seeing
my
a doctor.
goodness.
I waited 2.5 years just to get a diagnosis. And when I finally got that diagnosis, they just went to my mum, "Do you realise your daughter's got cerebral palsy?" My mum was just there like, "No, I did not."
I'm like,
And they
wow.
handed her like a leaflet and was like, "On your way."
And that was it. That was
That
it.
was it. I had therapy, like physio, which was all right. I didn't like it. I don't think any child with CP
No,
likes physio. Like, ugh,
no.
brutal. I had a lot of like casts, like leg casts and splints, and with all the orthotics, and made
Mm.
me feel almost like an alien on times. I was like, oh,
It might be worth mentioning at this point, if you don't mind sharing how your CP affects you, because
yeah,
everyone is affected differently. So
of
if you don't
course,
mind
yes,
describing a little bit about how it affects
yeah.
you.
Well, my CP like affects my walking. I can't really walk. I actually sadly lost the ability to walk when I was 11, so I could walk on my
Right,
tiptoes. It affects my coordination as well a little bit, and it mainly affects my. Even though I'm diplegic, so I've got spastic diplegic cerebral palsy, it mainly affects my legs, but it also affects my right side, which is
right.
like very confusing. Because I'm saying like, "Oh, I'm diplegic cerebral palsy," and then everyone's like, "But your right, your right hand's affected," and it's like, "Yeah, I know, it's just that one side."
So it's like diplegia and hemi combined.
Almost, yeah,
No,
but obviously it's very slight, it's minimal, like it's only a tiny
right.
amount. It's very unnoticeable.
And like in terms of like school and starting school, what was your experience of school like?
I kind of wish I had that really good positive like experience with school, but obviously I think early on I did get a bit teased, but I didn't really take it as like teasing. I just thought,
Mm,
"Oh, they want to be my friends," and I thought everyone wanted to be my friends, but it got worse, the bullying more in comp, as you know, when you go to high school
yeah,
and everything. And that's where like this, yeah, the bullying started more worse with people online. And I think everyone started to have their own like Facebook accounts and
yeah.
social media. And that's when everyone has an opinion.
That has been a really common thing with people on this podcast of like
Hmm.
really enjoying primary school and having a good
Yes.
experience in primary school, but then going to comp and
Yeah.
experiencing bullying. Like what were you good at in school? What did you enjoy?
I really enjoyed music and I liked English as well. I really enjoyed English. And like especially in comp, I did love PSE, which was like a little English like lesson that
Yeah.
you learn about different things.
Yeah.
I really, really loved that. I loved showing my opinion
Like we were
and
talking
having
about
a say.
politics the other day, and from the conversations you've had just over message, like I reckon you could have a career in
Oh
politics.
my gosh, in politics.
But like, yeah, did you have a good circle of friends in school? Were you well supported?
In school, not so much. I wish I kind of did because because I in my first year when I first started, it was okay. I had small little groups of friends, but as I left school because obviously I ended up in a wheelchair and whatnot and everything, and I needed to find a school that was more accessible for me. And then
Yeah.
obviously I had to go down a year because it took like a year and a half then to get me into a school. By the time I was in year 9, by the time I was supposed to start school, so I ended up going down to year 8, which was a year below me.
Okay.
Yes, I was
Oh,
a bit there like, oh my gosh, this is so much. But I decided to do that because year 9, I felt like I wanted to have GCSEs. I wanted to thrive and I
yeah.
wanted to like things. I was like, right, I need to go to year 8 to learn everything that year 8 are doing so then I can like catch up type thing. But that was the worst mistake I ever made in my life.
Oh, but what? Why was?
Because so the lot because obviously there's a lot of younger kids and everyone's a bit
Yeah,
childish
yeah.
in comp. But obviously
Yeah.
that's where the whole bullying started, where everyone didn't want to be my friend. They thought they could catch my CP if they were friends with me. They were very
Seriously,
uneducated.
that's so bad. Like,
Yeah.
and did you feel that you missed out on a lot academically because of the time that you missed in terms of school?
Oh
Or,
yes, definitely. Like it affected my confidence. It got to the stage where I didn't want to go to school. So then they started to do like I would be in the mornings and then I'd be home in the afternoons and then it'd be they would change it on the timetable. So then I'd be in the afternoons, home in like and then home in the evening like type thing. And I'm just like I don't want to do this. Like I
yeah.
can't. But they had to gradually put me back in. And then in the end, I was just like when I did full time, I was like I can't do this anymore. Like it's so overwhelming and draining that I was just like, it's impacting my mental health really badly. And my family are really supportive, so they were just like, do whatever you want to do.
Mm. And do you feel like there weren't provisions put in place to make school accessible for you?
They in the end had to put ramps down because in the canteen that we had, they had like 4 steps to enter the canteen. So I remember sitting
Mm.
there going, "Can my support worker get my lunch for me, please?" So in the end, they did put ramps down, and it's like
Mm.
a really massive, like long ramp, so you can access now, which is great. And to get into the classrooms, there's like a high step, and to get into that high step, I had to have like a ramp. So I felt like they were kind of pulling the red carpet out.
Yeah, a little bit.
I
But
didn't
like
feel safe in it in my electric chair. I was like, "Am I gonna fall off this?" Eek.
like one of those really wobbly ramps that is like
Yeah.
collapse at any minute. Like, did you have TAs in school? Did you have one-to-one
Y-
support, that sort
Yes,
of
yeah,
thing?
I had one-to-one
Yeah.
support in com. I had one really lovely one, but then she wanted to change roles and jobs, so I was really like,
Right.
no, don't leave me. And then I had somebody else
Uh,
who just didn't understand disability at all. Like she was very much like, oh, you can't do this, and putting like
mm.
expectations on me and like treating me as if I was a child, but then would refuse to take my books out of my bag. And I'm just like, well, I can't really get my books out of my bag.
Like that's such an important thing in school is having a good relationship with your TA, and I had some good
Hmm.
ones, I had some bad ones. And
Yes.
that does make a difference, like
Hmm.
with how you're learning. I went to a Welsh medium primary school, and my
Wow.
TA in primary school couldn't speak Welsh, so I had to translate everything to as like a 6 or 7 year old.
That's so cool. You're gonna have to teach me some Welsh.
Definitely, we will have that. So like after school, did you have a sense of what you wanted to do? Were like career opportunities open to you? Was that something you were looking at? And has it been difficult in terms of employment or making stuff like that accessible?
I think employment is a huge thing when you're disabled. It's really hard to get because they see the disability rather than the person. They see the limitations that we
Mm.
have. And it's a sad thing, really, the amount of jobs that I have tried to apply for. And it's been, no, no, we can't employ you. But my main goal was to like talk about what the experience of I had with school because I wanted that to be
Yeah.
changed. I remember thinking, like, okay, even though it's such a negative thing that I went through, I could turn it into something positive to make sure nobody else goes through what I did because I wouldn't want someone to have to leave school halfway through their GCSEs and then come with no qualifications and
Mm.
just be stuck in a world that it's like, oh, is this really meant for me? Like,
And then I suppose, like, because through no fault of your own, through having no qualifications, the ability to then go on to college was
yes. Yeah, I did go
very
into
difficult.
part-time music course in college because they were a bit like, because I didn't have any qualifications. Some of the courses you had to have qualifications with.
Yeah.
I did say, like, I'll do English and Maths GCSE, like, I'm happy to do that. But obviously, because I needed support, it was a bit like, oh, we'll give you this course. And they asked me what I was interested in. And I said, music. I love music and drama. So I did a music part-time course in the evenings, which I absolutely loved.
Do you play any instruments?
I used to play the piano, but I've kind of forgotten now. I tried the guitar and I was just like, no, this is too much chords. Like, because you have to hold one hand and play with the other. I was like, nope.
How did you find that in terms of coordination and does your CP affect the way your hands move and stuff like that?
Sometimes, but not all the time. Like, it is mainly my legs that,
Yeah.
affect me. But yeah, sometimes it does. If I'm on like a really tired day, my hands are like, I'm not
Mm.
cooperating. Like, if I'm trying to open a package, I'm like, I can't open this.
Yeah.
Like,
And like in terms of employment and education, especially higher education, college and university, do you think there's more that schools and maybe businesses could do to help disabled people into employment?
I reckon they should definitely listen to like disabled people and listen to our voices and just like include us and accept us. And obviously things like what you're doing is a great example for that, with this Palsy podcast. Like I think that's absolutely amazing. They could listen to these podcasts and actually, take on board what we're saying.
Well, that's the plan. Sometimes, yeah, do you feel like you're knocking on doors and you're saying this stuff and aren't people really listening to
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
But
that's what it literally feels like, doesn't it? It just feels like we don't have a voice half the time because we're
mm,
trying to voice our opinions and talk, but it's almost like, oh, it doesn't matter. We know better.
and there can often be that assumption of, oh, we know what disabled people need without actually talking to the individual
Uh-huh.
person and the assumption of what that need looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Whereas
agree.
every person is an individual and you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have different access requirements to me. We're gonna experience the world differently. I
Mm-hmm.
think progress comes from opening up that discussion and talking to disabled people on an individual basis.
Uh-huh. Yep, I agree.
Like I don't know, it's been a really positive episode so far, but I wanted to talk about disability hate crime,
Mm-hmm.
which hasn't really come up on the podcast so far, but it's an
Okay.
important topic that I want to discuss. If you're comfortable,
Yeah.
you've experienced disability hate crime
Mm-hmm.
um, in school, and like, how did that make you feel, and what was it like to go through that experience?
Well, it kind of made me feel like I didn't belong when I was going through it.
Mm.
Like I felt like my disability was something that I should be ashamed of. That obviously you can't help when you're born with cerebral palsy. Like it's brain injury happens at birth. You don't choose to have
Yeah,
it. But obviously when you're getting called like the slur words constantly every
yeah.
day and whatnot, and always being told you're stupid and everything, you start to believe that as well. You're like, oh,
Mm.
maybe I am a bit stupid, and I didn't realize I'd actually experienced a disability hate crime until after I'd left school and I started to look on campaigns. And I was in town one time and there was a border saying disability hate crime and hate crime. And I was just there like, what's all this about? Like, I like this. And I got into it and I was like, I want to make change. Like, I wish I'd reported it because it's so important, because it doesn't get reported.
I think disability hate crime, 80% of disability hate crime goes
Mm-hmm.
unreported. And people might wonder, oh, what is a hate crime? How do you define a hate crime?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's there's a lot of things that could be considered
Yes.
disability hate crime. It's not just kind of physical abuse, something like
No.
that. It's like, so how I'm gonna dig myself out this hole here and ask you to give me maybe a definition, your
Yes.
definition,
Of
perhaps.
course. So a hate crime could involve anything. It could involve religion. It could involve like sexual orientation, all that. Disability is in with it. So it's basically someone who targets that victim or that person into like abuse. Like it could be physical,
Yeah.
it could be sociable, like, using slurs, using racial slurs, like all that kinds of stuff. Like that is classified as a hate crime.
And particularly on disability, I think we've seen a rise recently in
Mm-hmm.
disability hate crime. I think because of some of the rhetoric that's being used. I mean, we've got a Labour government. We've got a Labour government after 12
Oh,
years of conservatism. And yet,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
yet, still, there's a lot of this rhetoric around people on benefits, people, and like, which I don't think is helpful. But what do
No,
you
it's
think
not.
could be done about that in terms of the representation of disabled people to decrease these incidents of hate crime? Um,
Y- Yeah, like I definitely do feel like I would love to myself be on the panel or whatever for disability hate crime and discuss about it and tell the Labour government and everything like that.
mm,
How important it is to listen to disabled people and disabled voices because we often do get forgotten about as well, which is unfair. And we are our society now. We see a lot more
mm,
disabled people here. If it wasn't for us, we wouldn't have some of the access that we have now today. And
mm.
I think that we are important to this society and we shouldn't be going backwards. We should be going forwards.
I think. some people also said on this podcast, like if you're currently not disabled, there's a huge chance that you will become
Will,
disabled
yeah,
as you get
exactly.
older, and I don't think
Hmm.
people realize that.
No, they don't.
Um, so, being a
Yeah.
good ally to disabled people will help everyone, I
Yeah,
think.
it will help everyone because when you get older, things deteriorate and
Mm. I mean, we're thinking about ambitions and the lack of opportunities in terms of career. Like, if what kind of career would you really love to go into? What is your dream job, do you
Hmm.
think?
It changes all the time. But when I was like really little, I wanted to be like an actress. I was literally there, like, I want to work hard and I want to be an actress. Like that was one of my main goals, was like, yep, I want to do that. Like I love watching movies and shows and and being somebody else
Mm,
as well. I enjoy that. Like being someone that you're not, it's like, yes, I thrive off that. And it's like, yeah, I'd love to do something like that. But also I think for me personally now as an adult, I feel I want to be an advocate and
yeah.
um to talk to politicians maybe in the future when I get more of like
Mm. Absolutely. Like I'd say on the acting thing, obviously that I've come across a lot in the work I do. Like there are opportunities out there. It's never too late.
hmm.
I'd say if you're interested in it, Jade, just give it a go. Oh,
Thank
like
you.
we need more disabled actors.
Oh yes,
Maybe.
we do. We definitely do need disabled actors playing disabled roles because I remember when I
Mm.
was a kid, I watched Glee and I was like, oh my gosh, a wheelchair user, yay! Someone that can represent me. And then when I found out he wasn't in a wheelchair, I was absolutely like, no. Like it wouldn't have been so hard to get someone who was disabled to play that role. Like,
Absolutely. Like on the flip side of that, for me, there was an actor who's a friend of mine, Carla Riedel, who's got CP, who's in
yes.
Tracy Beaker, which I remember watching when I was a kid, and Carla's now a good friend, and like seeing Carla in Tracy Beaker really
Oh yes, Cara was, I
made me
loved her.
think, oh yeah,
Yes.
I could have a career in the arts, and I'm really grateful that I've been able to kind of have that career. No,
Hmm.
but it's not about me, Jade. This episode's about
I
you.
don't mind listening. It's all
You.
good.
Um, so you're doing a lot in terms of strength and conditioning and all. Like, how did that start? What motivated you to start your strength and conditioning training, and how's that going?
So what made it start was I went over for America for an operation on my legs. I had to have lymph node surgery because they were really badly like damaged and whatnot, and I couldn't really do anything, like move and stuff with it because my legs were so like fixated on just doing that all the time.
Right.
So I had surgery for that to correct that. I had to pay for that, funded it with fundraising. And then I was in America and they'd said to me, I need to find like a strength conditioning coach or a personal trainer to train with me to help with my mobility. So I
Mm,
put on Facebook like, is there anyone like that deals with CP and like can have me because I'll pay, like I don't mind. So then obviously
mm.
Rhiannon, who works at SDR Rehab UK, messaged me and was like, yeah, I can work with you. And she's worked with me ever since. It's been nearly a decade since we've been training.
And what kind of stuff do you do with Rihanna?
I do a lot of stuff. It's quite like a lot of like medical dynamic stuff, but it's more working on like your glutes, your core, because people think that when you have CP, it's all about walking and like and everything,
Mm,
but it's not just about that. Like it's about sending the signals that haven't been sent to the correct muscles and everything, and trying to relearn that. We do muscle stim as well, which is great.
mm.
I love that, but it's kind of a bit like, ooh, it feels like a heartbeat on my leg.
So it's about neuroplasticity.
Yes,
People
yes.
might not have heard that word
Hmm.
neuroplasticity, but it's about, correct me if I'm wrong, because you might know more about this than me, but firing up those areas of the brain that are
Yeah.
damaged.
Yeah, and just
And
working on
maybe,
the body and strengthening
hmm.
it in a better way and relearning.
And how have you kind of developed physically? What difference does that make to you and your kind of quality of life is a subjective term, which I don't really like, but
Such a medical thing to say, isn't it? When you say
yeah,
quality of
sorry,
life.
sorry about that.
No, I think it has helped my like posture and stuff and how like I sit and also like working upper body as well because my upper body strength was not like the weakest, but it needed a lot of work on because when
Right.
you have CP and that. So it has helped with my core muscles because they were a little bit weak before I had like any of the SDL surgeries that I had in America. I needed to work on that to be able, to walk. You have to have your good core strength and stuff. So I worked a lot on that. I was actually like, right, I need to work my butt
Mm.
off
Yeah.
like at this.
So people might be thinking, oh, why did you have to go to America to get this done? Why isn't it available in the UK? So why is that, Joe?
Okay, so there's a long story on this part, but it is now funded in the UK, the selective dorsal rhizotomy surgery, which is a spinal surgery that involves cutting the nerves in the spine. But if you reach a certain age, the NHS don't like you having it, and if you're also like if your gross motor function is like a 3, 4, they don't really like you to have it on them. They'd rather you be
Right.
like a 1 or a 2, which is kind of a bit like that's not fair, like type thing. Um,
So is it kind of penalizing people with like more whose CP is maybe more severe, quote
Yeah,
unquote?
yeah,
Yeah.
basically. It's because I remember I went to the London one in London with my dad, and they just took one look at me, didn't really fully examine me, and just went, "Yeah, you won't be a candidate." And I just went, "Okay, that's cool because I'm going to America anyway. I only came because I
Right.
wanted to shut my dad up."
So like what does the surgery involve? Like is it quite invasive?
It is quite invasive, yes. They have to like obviously put you to sleep, open your spine, and then cut all the like nerves. But they have to test them first, and then they cut like the nerve endings in your spine, which is quite a severe surgery because if they cut the wrong nerve, you can end up paralyzed and stuff. So they have to be really
Oh.
careful on what nerve they cut, how they cut it. And I was just there like, I'm going to America because that's the only hospital I trust.
Which is funny considering, the American healthcare service, private healthcare, But
So
maybe it
expensive.
should be available on the NHS. Like, what kind of a difference does it make to you in terms of day to day, really?
Yeah, well, since having the SDR surgery now, I can walk with tripod sticks like short
Mm,
distances, which is great because I couldn't do that before. I still obviously have, because I had the SDR so later on in my life, I do now have spasticity in just my right leg, which is a bit of a
yeah.
shame, but it's not the end of the world. Like I can work on that. I can get Botox injections and medication and stuff, which is like, yep, okay, I will plod along.
Do you wish that, oh, I wish I'd done this 10, do you wish you did it earlier, that you knew
Um,
about it earlier? Uh,
Now, not so much no. Like, I'm actually so grateful that because I know a lot of people in my position wouldn't have been able to have the SDL surgery. So now I'm like, oh well, I've had it. I feel privileged. I feel very lucky, and whatnot. And we managed got the funding, and obviously the anonymous donor donated the money. So I feel very, very grateful that I was
mm.
able to have the surgery.
Absolutely. Like, and I think there's a conversation here about access to treatment and
Hmm.
physio as an adult when you have CP.
Oh,
Have
I
you have you noticed that kind of drop off between child and adult services?
The amount of doctors I saw as a child was so much. I remember having like 4 appointments in one day just to see different specialists. And
Mm.
then as soon as you hit 16, it's almost like they slowly start to like, bye, you're independent. You'll always have CP, but
Good
you're on
luck.
your own in this. You've got this.
And it just kind of disappears, doesn't it? So what, and like CP is still not really recognized as a lifelong condition, which is baffling because I've spoken to 30 adults with CP this month. We exist. We
We
exist.
do exist, yes. It's always like children with CP are like obviously they're primarily important because they need to learn stuff. But then it's
Mm.
like adults become CP too. Like we don't just disappear.
What more do you think needs to be done to improve like the availability of treatment for adults with CP?
I do feel like we should have the same healthcare as well because we don't get like that. And I also find it's really difficult for anybody now to even see a doctor. But I remember
Yeah.
I would always have a GP like appointment every like fortnight where I'd see a GP to make sure that everything was all going okay and whatnot. And now it's like, oh, it's 2 years, or maybe I have to call them
Mm.
whenever I want to see them. So I do feel like the government and the NHS need to like look into adults with CP and also like get more research as well because obviously we do
Mm.
experience adult aging as well earlier.
Yeah.
like aging with
that
CP, you age quickly, I find, like your bones and that.
because I suppose we use so much more energy than neurotypical people. That's something that Richard Luke and Sarah Edwards and lots of people brought up on previous episodes. It's
Hmm.
like, yes, when things change, it's like, oh, is that just a growing older thing, or is that a CP thing that is
Yeah.
being exacerbated by the aging
Uh-huh.
process?
And how they say as well that like CP isn't progressive. Like I understand the whole brain damage isn't a progressive thing, but obviously as you do get older, your muscles do start getting more tighter and because you're using
Mm,
them in the wrong way as well, I always find because our brain's sending it wrong and we're just getting more tighter when we're trying to move and stuff. So when they say like CP isn't progressive, I'm like, well, actually it can be because some people do
mm.
get like worse.
And if you say you've learned to walk in a certain way, which works for you in terms of getting around, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe the way in which you're doing that in terms of how you're doing it might be damaging some muscles.
Yes.
And I think what you're doing in terms of SDR and what I'm trying to do in terms of playing tennis, staying active, getting moving is so
Yes.
important.
Oh yes, it is
In-
so important because a lot of like my non-disabled friends are always like, "Why are you doing like strength and conditioning? Like, what's the point in doing that? You've had the surgery now." And I'm like, "I've still got to be active. I've still got to be moving. Like, you'll lose if you don't use it. You'll lose it." And
Yeah, absolutely. And did you feel like when you were younger that element of fitness and sport was available to you, or did you feel kind of excluded from that?
I never really. I remember doing whiz kids as a kid, and I did enjoy some of the sports, but I never really like because my parents don't drive. It was very hard to get to
Right.
places, and I didn't have PAs and whatnot. We didn't know we could have PAs until I was like 15, and I was like, oh, I could have had a PA this whole time. I used to bring my friends along to drama school with me, like drama classes.
Uh, like it's that thing as well, not knowing what's available. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what's available, you
Yep.
don't know what opportunities are open to you.
And
Like,
that's so important to like know because if you don't
mm,
know anything, you're not gonna know. And it's just like
yeah.
the fact that some things are just like you have to figure it out yourself. It's like, oh.
Yeah. And how much has transport been a barrier? You've mentioned that you found don't drive. Is it difficult for you to physically get to places? And would you consider learning to drive yourself? Because that's something I'm doing at the moment. I'm finding it quite challenging.
Yeah, of course. Hey, it's really difficult because transport is like such a like I find buses so inaccessible, even though they've got the ramp, they've got the wheelchair, like so you can go in. But
Yeah.
if there's like a pram or an elderly lady with a trolley, it's really hard to get into those areas. So they haven't really like when bus companies haven't really looked on how disabled people go into those things
Mm.
because they have that massive like bell thing in the middle, and it's like, well, that is really, really like stopping me from getting to the backrest.
Yeah.
It's like, "Rrr." But obviously, I want to learn to drive, but I'm on medication that will probably like prevent me from driving.
Right. That's
And obviously, my eyesight needs to be sorted as well. So yeah, that's another thing that I need to work towards.
it's hard. Like for
Hmm.
me, I'm enjoying learning, but it's frustrating when there are things that make it more difficult. And my driving instructor is lovely, and she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's only a certain degree to which you can control that because it's because of your brain injury that this is
Yeah.
so difficult." But at the same time, it's frustrating because you're like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I've been learning for nearly, 10 months, and I'm still
Mm.
not ready to pass the test, but hopefully
Mm.
that'll improve, Jade."
Oh, hopefully, yeah.
And um, I really enjoyed the chat, and thank you for coming on, Jade.
Thank you so much for having me.
The last thing I want to ask you is what is one thing that you wish people knew about cerebral palsy?
Oh, the one thing. There's many things I want people to know about cerebral
Just
palsy.
one
Just one thing.
one thing.
Um, I would say don't assume what we can't do because that is a huge thing. People always assume when you have cerebral palsy or you tell them you've got CP, they're like, "Oh, you can't do that. You've got
Mm,
CP," and they always try and like set expectations on you. But I always like proving people wrong that do that to me. I'm like, "I will do it. You said I can't. I will do it now."
absolutely. And I think also that thing of when you're out in public, maybe with your friends or your parents, and the person talks to your friend or your parents rather than talking
It
to
happens
you.
still now. I was on the train station going to Cardiff, and the guy who does the, accessibility for the trains, he
Yeah.
didn't speak to me. He spoke to like my like a sister, she's like a sister to me, but she spoke to her, and I was just sitting there like, I spoke to you first. Like, I do exist.
So,
Like,
like, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about education. The
it
education around
does.
disability needs to be in schools from
It
an
does need.
early age,
Yeah.
and just normalizing it, not making a
Yeah.
big thing of it, but like
hmm
disabled people exist.
Yeah.
It's the
And
thing.
getting a disabled person to go into those schools and basically talk to those kids and have lessons and stuff as well. I
Yeah.
think that's so important as well.
And if people are listening from schools, maybe like if there's an opportunity to do that, I'm sure I would love to do it, but I'm sure Jade would love the opportunity to go in and do that as well. So feel free to reach out Ian or Jade and yeah, hopefully we get to that go in. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been lovely to speak to you, get to know
And
you a
thank
bit
you
more.
so much. It's been so lovely as well. It wasn't so daunting as I thought it'd be.
Stay, I told you you didn't need to be nervous. That's it for this episode of the Palsy Podcast, and nearly it for the Palsy Podcast in general. We've got one more episode left, and it's going to be a little bit different. So I've got a bit of a surprise for people who are listening on tomorrow's episode of the Palsy Podcast, episode 31. I can't believe it's the end of March.
It's got
But I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you have as well. It'd be lovely to hear some feedback from some of the episodes that maybe you've listened to. So please feel free to like, subscribe, share, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And yeah, thank you to Jade for joining me today, and thank you for listening. But for now, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Jade. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Palsy Podcast with me, Ciaran Fitzgerald. I want to thank my guests for joining me, and I hope that you'll stay tuned for the next episode and more throughout March. Thank you.